And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talks Patreon exclusive for this week. And as you can tell, I have this beautiful, semi-beautiful, okay, maybe not really beautiful, gentleman by my side. You've heard him on the show several times. It is Russell Hartman from the formerly known as Full Tilt New York Rangers blog, now Tilted Ice.
Yes, so we went through a bit of a rebranding. Our family of podcasts is now known as the Tilted Ice family of podcasts. We have Tilted Ice North of Penn, which is our New York Rangers podcast. We have Tilted Ice Around the League, which talk about everyone that's not the New York Rangers. And Tilted Ice Center Ice is where we have guests like Craig Custance come on, and we do big free-form interviews. And our main page is now known as Forever Blue Shirts. You can find all that stuff on Twitter.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, lots of new stuff going on.
Lots of new stuff.
Yeah.
And real quick for the people to know, especially for the TXHT community, what spawned the change?
So the guy who originally owned Full Tilt Rangers, he's a guy named Anthony, really great guy. Been blogging for about 4 or 5 years now, but he just kind of felt like he wanted to go back to being a fan again. Just wanted to go back to enjoying the games, not always writing, not worrying about editing and all that kind of thing. So he handed the reins over to me and a few other people that worked in the Full Tilt family, and we rebranded to Forever Blue Shirts. We got his blessing, and that's where Forever Blue Shirt and Tilted Ice came out of.
All right. Now with that, as we sit here in the press room of DerpyCon in Morristown, New Jersey, which is why this is able to happen, you know, the two of us sitting together at the same place. It has kind of the WBGR feel. It's just we don't have the show logo on the background or anything like that like we normally do in the studio. But, we actually finally got to meet each other.
Yeah, how great was that, right?
Especially, it's like when you look at it, we always talk like on the phone via the show, Skype, if we record an episode. So it's like, it's that like whole thing is like, wow, we can actually sit down and actually talk hockey.
Great.
It's not, hey, can you call in at this time and do this for us, please?
Right.
You just take off your jacket, casually with the WWE Undisputed title, because we had a wrestling panel earlier today. I wanted to talk about, for certain topics to talk about. Obviously, we talk so much about Caps, Rangers, but this past week we had the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions: Paul Kariya, Teemu Selanne, Dave Andreychuk, Mark Recchi. Now we look on to next year. Obviously, one of the biggest locks, and it's ironic that we're in New Jersey to talk about this one, but Martin Brodeur. There's many other names that should probably be in the Hall of Fame but haven't been put in yet. I don't know the full list in front of me for who is also eligible for going in this year or for this upcoming year. What are your thoughts on the upcoming potential class, knowing that odds are Martin Brodeur is headlining that?
I mean, you can't get much better as a class to have possibly the greatest goalie of all time to be your headliner. Look, as a Ranger fan, I wasn't the biggest Martin Brodeur fan as through the years, but you got to give the guy some credit.
That defense in front of him was really good.
Yeah. I mean, when they did the trap system and everything, and the Devils were known as the trap team of the 90s.
Yeah, the defense was really good in front of him. He didn't have to do much. He didn't face that many shots.
I mean, what is it, something like 691 wins or so all time, and all these records. I mean, Braden Holtby just tied his wins record for the season last season or 2 seasons ago, I think it was.
Yeah, that's like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, so he's a fantastic goaltender. I'm not sure the whole list either, but when you have a guy like that going in, it's bound to draw attention.
Well, let's take a look at some names that aren't in the Hall of Fame that have been eligible for a while. And I was looking at this list for a while, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, how can some of these guys not be in there? And if I remember right, one of those names was Mike Richter.
Oof. Well.
And Adam Graves.
Yeah.
So it's like, those are 2 very pivotal players that played very big roles on teams.
Multiple. In Adam Graves' case, I think multiple Stanley Cup teams.
The Oilers and the Rangers, and just the Rangers for Mike Richter. So it's like you got those 2 guys there. I mean, obviously on the Capital side of things, I'd have to say Dale Hunter. One of the only players in the league that have 3,000 penalty minutes and 1,000 points. That right there, that was hard to do.
Yeah.
Not many guys had that. If you had over 3,000 penalty minutes, odds are you weren't going to have over maybe 400 points. So to see that and him not be in the Hall of Fame, that kind of makes you go,
Especially Mike Richter. I mean, the guy was one of the best American-born goaltenders of all time. over 300 wins with the New York Rangers. Fantastic goalie. Great guy in the community too. He still does a lot of great community work. I mean, without injuries, he probably still would have played a few more years after he retired as well. His numbers in the rafters in the Garden. He arguably had one of the biggest saves of all time when he stopped Pavel Bure's penalty shot in Vancouver during the 1994 Stanley Cup Final. You know, just crazy acrobatic saves in the goal. And, you know, if he should be one of the names mentioned, like, to come up in the Hall of Fame, especially Adam Graves, too. Adam Graves was the single-season record holder for goals for the Rangers for a long time until Jaromir Jagr broke it when he signed with the team. Great team.
When he was traded to the team.
When traded with the team, yeah. Oh, who's the Rangers trade? Oh, the Rangers got from the Washington Capitals for Anson Carter. And then Jaromir Jagr proceeded to put up career numbers again for the New York Rangers.
Things happen.
Right? And then...
Well, he didn't want to be in Washington anyway, so it just worked out better for us in the long run, so...
It's true, because then Ovechkin came pretty soon after that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Actually, Jagr was traded the fire sale year.
Oh, so that was the year right before Ovechkin was fire sale year?
Yeah, the fire sale. That was when the Caps traded Jagr, Robert Lang, Peter Bondra, Sergei Gonchar, Michael Nylander.
Everybody, wow.
Steve Konowalchuk. You know, it's like the Caps just fire saled that team that year. And it was really disappointing when they traded Peter Bondra.
Yeah.
That broke my heart because I'm a huge diehard Peter Bondra fan.
It's like when Brian Leetch got traded, when the Rangers did their fire sale, 2002. Everyone was really sad that Brian Leetch got traded.
Well, I think at that point for Brian Leetch, he was already at a point in his career where he didn't really have much left.
Yeah.
You know, so for when he, like, Peter Bondra still put up numbers for the years following after he left. Whereas Brian Leetch, he got traded to Toronto, if I remember right, and then he signed one year with Boston, and he really didn't do much with Boston.
No, and then I think he retired like pretty soon after that too. So.
Yeah, he retired after that season. And I think the reason he went to Boston was just because he's from Massachusetts and he wanted to play the one season for his hometown team, which is fair enough. And Brian Leetch is a guy.
Yeah.
You know, talking about, you know, guys not in the Hall, you know, that's another guy who's had a pretty damn good career.
A lot of members of that 94 team, like Messier's in, of course.
Messier's in,
but Brian Leetch, again, probably the best American-born defenseman of all time, and he's not in the Hall, which is crazy to me.
Now, let me throw this name out there. He spent time with the Rangers, but he really made a name for himself with the Florida Panthers. John Van Beesbrook.
John Van Beesbrook, yeah. Great goaltender. I mean, he was the goalie that led the Panthers to the 96 final, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he went to them. He was with them since day one, part of that expansion draft. And he, 3 seasons in. Yeah. That's the crazy part. It was like 3 seasons in.
They make the final.
And they made the finals. So, and that speaks a lot, about him as a goaltender and what he can do and stuff like that. Then he moved on to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And then I believe he might have done a stint in the island?
Could have. I'm not sure.
Maybe. Though. I don't remember.
He's one of those that's on the fence, though.
Yeah. But, he's definitely a name that I think of, like, great goaltenders. Obviously, a name that people bring up is Curtis Joseph for goaltending. But, like, what names, when you think about, not just Rangers, obviously, you being a Rangers fan, those are easy names that we can throw out there that, they probably should belong in there. But other names around the league, from other teams that just have great careers.
Up until this year, I couldn't believe Dave Andreychuk wasn't in earlier. Because I think he's the all-time leader in power play goals, too. And he was, like, the guy you put in front of the net on the power play, too. Great leader. Like, he gave an expansion team their first Stanley Cup, too, with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Great leader. So I was shocked he wasn't in before, this season. Because he was a great captain. Kind of showed Vinny LeCavalier what he had to do to lead that team after he left. And he had a great run with Tampa. And even before that, when he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs during '93. Yeah, in Buffalo. Yeah. During the '93 final, I forget what the divisions were called in the '90s, but when
Patrick and I believe it was Patrick Division and the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, and when Gretzky's Kings stopped Gilmore and Andreychuk and the Leafs from having the Leafs Canadiens final that everyone wanted in the '90s, so he's a great player. So it was shocking that he wasn't in way before this year.
Yeah. But players that are currently not in, obviously, one can say Mogilny went in, Pavel Bure,
Burry's still not. Is he in or
I don't think Burry's in yet. We'd have to double check that.
Yeah.
It's either Burry went in and Mogilny hasn't gone in yet, or Mogilny went in and Burry.
I think Burry's in Mogilny still.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then Alexander Mogilny. You have. Let's see here, man. We're just trying to rattle names off of we could always from my end, Peter Bondra.
Peter Bondra's not in the hall yet?
No.
Oh, I thought he was.
I don't think honestly, and I'll be realistic, I don't think Peter Bondra or Olaf Kolzig will make the Hockey Hall of Fame. They'll eventually get their numbers retired in the Capitals, but which is funny. They should just put the banners up because it's been pretty much told that those two numbers are never allowed to be worn ever again. Because if anyone wore that number, the fans would just riot in DC. Yeah. Kind of like how it is with like the Rangers. Like if anyone wore 11, people would riot because of Messi.
Well, now they can't because it's retired.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that perspective, but I understand why Peter Bonner won't go in. That's why I say of the Capitals that could go in, it's Dale Hunter.
Yeah. Another Ranger that came to mind. I don't think he's in the Hall. I'm pretty sure he's not in the Hall, but he's getting his number retired in January, and that's Jean Rattel. And Jean Rattel's number is 19, so after this season, Jesper Foster changed his number. He's no longer 19 on the team. But Jean Rattel, along with Vic Hadfield and Rod Gilbert, formed one of the best lines in NHL history. They're called the gag line. A goal a game, and I don't believe Rattel's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, it's
yet.
Not because people were gagging when they saw him on the ice?
No, those three were magic together. All, like, the whole careers when they played together. And I don't think he's in, and he definitely should be one on the short list because he put up some great points back then. And even though the Rangers didn't win the big one, they came close.
Now, when we look at players, I want to look at players around the league as well, like other teams. Because, like, there's probably guys from the Chicago teams that should be in. There's probably guys from...
Makita's definitely in, right? I'm pretty sure.
Makita, of course.
Yeah, Makita's in, yeah.
That's a stupid question. Like they always say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. That was a stupid question. Of course he's in the Hall of Fame. But, like, Rob Blake.
It's a good one, too.
Some could say, Mike Madonna's in the Hall of Fame.
He is now, yeah.
I believe Eddie Belfour's in there.
I was going to bring him up before, but I'm pretty sure he's in also.
Mike Vernon.
Great goaltender on his own right, too. Yeah.
Chris Osgood.
But then you also have to look at what are the qualifications for the Hall, too, because, I was listening to Hockey News podcast the other day, and they were saying how, why is someone like Mark Recchi in? Like, did he ever do anything extremely, extremely special, or is he in just because of the longevity of his career and all the points he put up? Like, what exactly do you need to do to get in the Hall? And I think that's a very interesting thing to pick up on.
Obviously, if you're a dynamic player like an Alex Ovechkin, like let's put it in perspective like this: if Alex Ovechkin never won the Stanley Cup, he'd still be put in the Hall of Fame.
And right now, for all intents and purposes, Alex Ovechkin's the first ballot Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
If Crosby, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, and Evgeny Malkin, all three of them retired at the same time,
they'd all be in the Hall the same year.
They would all be in the Hall the same year. They'd all be first balloters, even though Ovechkin would not have a Stanley Cup.
No.
And it's not because Ovi doesn't, Crosby and Malkin, they have 3 cups each, which hurts a lot of people to say that. And Ovechkin has 0. But the fact that Alex Ovechkin came into the league and really helped change the league, and that he became a face of the league, and all his goal scoring, breaking the Russian records in the NHL and stuff like that. So for him to be able to do that gets him into the Hall of Fame. And then Sidney Crosby winning the Stanley Cups, winning the Conn Smythes, winning all this all the stuff that he's done for Pittsburgh. Same with Evgeny Malkin. That's how those guys get into that. You look at Mark Recchi. He's had 3 Stanley Cups.
He did. I believe the point they were making was he that type of like game changing player, and is that the kind of thing? Is it based on like the amount they did, or is it based on how they did it essentially?
Yeah. And honestly, if anyone has the name of Sven, they automatically get a spot in the Hall of Fame. There's a Sven wing of the Hockey Hall of Fame. So Sven Argento of Colorado, he needs to play a very good job. And make sure he guarantees himself a spot in this Sven wing of the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah. If no one's listened, I recommend listening to this week's Hockey News podcast because it was very interesting hearing the argument for why certain people should be in and why certain people shouldn't be in. So,
and who were they arguing about? Specific people?
Mark Recchi was one of them. Then they were arguing. There's another player that they were picking on a lot, and I don't remember his name right now. But the whole podcast they kept referring to this one name about if he's in the Hall, then a lot of other people deserve to be in the Hall too because he never did anything spectacular. And I forgot exactly who it was, but they keep mentioning this one specific player. Yeah,
it's probably a Ranger. No, just kidding. But shifting on to the actual Ranger talk, recently they just had a 6-game winning streak snapped. What's it like seeing the Rangers now compared to how they were at the beginning of the season?
Well, they just look like first things first. It looks like they care again because when they were on this really terrible start, it looked like they were teams were scoring goals on them in the first 30 seconds of the game. Then they were out of it and they didn't catch up. They were playing from behind the entire game. It looked like they came out flat. It looked like they weren't caring about the result of the game. Henrik Lundqvist was extremely frustrated with the team too.
When he speaks, it speaks volumes.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things that happened to start this winning streak was in between the second and third periods against the Vegas Golden Knights at the start of the winning streak, the Rangers were down 4-2 going to the third. And Henrik Lundqvist gave a speech to the locker room. We don't know exactly what was said, but we know a speech was given. And something that he said made everyone wake up. And they ended up winning that game 5-4. They beat the Golden Knights, and then they go on this streak where they beat the Blue Jackets, they beat the Oilers, they beat the Bruins, they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they beat the Florida Panthers. So they pull off wins against a bunch of quality teams. Blackhawks snapped it. Everything comes to an end, but they're on the right track now is the important part. Henrik Lundqvist is making the saves he has to make, and it's nice when Kevin Shattenkirk's leading the entire league in D-man points.
Is Alain Vigneault still in the hot seat?
Yes. And this winning streak has definitely cooled talk about him being on the hot seat, but there are rumors coming out if they lost that Vegas game that might have been the final straw. But they need to continue the solid play because if there's another big dip like there was in the beginning of the season, he's not going to last much longer in New York. I really don't think so.
And I've asked this before, but should Jeff Gordon be on the hot seat?
He should.
And even with the turnaround right now, if he is on the hot seat, should he remain on it?
Yes, and there's still holes on this roster. The fact that, look, he's playing fine, but the fact that Nick Holden's playing top pair right now, it's a coaching decision, but something needs to be addressed a little bit there. Jeff Gordon needs to talk to Alain Vigneault and be like, look, you need to move some things because, Nick Holden did not look good in that game against Chicago. He didn't look good at all. Steven Kampfer just came out of lineup to put Brendan Smith back in as well. Brendan Smith's been sitting, and he's a guy who they signed for $16 million in the offseason, and someone like that should not be sitting for a journeyman AHL player. Jeff Gordon also needs to fill the gap in the middle of the ice. Behind Mika Zibanejad and Kevin Hayes, there's a mess there right now in the third and fourth line. And really, I would like Kevin Hayes to be a third-line center. Preferably, I would like him to go out and get a number 2 because Mika Zibanejad's showing he can be a number 1. He's leading the team in points, I'm pretty sure, at this point. I'm pretty sure, and I know he's leading them in goals. But yeah, the number 2 center ice still needs to be addressed. Other than that, I feel like they kind of have a lock on things, but it's just kind of coaching lineup decisions right now that are really bothering me. How Holden and Camp are in the lineup over someone like a Tony DeAngelo or Brendan Smith.
Who's in Hartford right now?
He's in Hartford. A guy like Neil Pionk is in Hartford. They just signed this guy from the KHL. His name's Alexei Baraglazov over the summer, defenseman, but he has an out clause. So if he's not up on the roster, he's not liking the direction, he can go back to Russia if he really feels like it too. So.
Let's talk a little bit of Russia while we're at it. Vadim Shipachev.
Yeah.
Vegas goes back to the KHL. He signed with SKA St. Petersburg. And had some very choice words to say about George McPhee and the Vegas Golden Knights and about how he felt they handled his situation. What are your thoughts on the whole Shipachev situation?
Well, no matter what you're paid, and this kind of ties into Brendan Smith as well, you're not owed ice time. You're not owed anything. It's your performance that is what matters on the ice. And if it would be different if Shipachev was in the AHL and dominating the AHL and just saying, like, this is too easy for me, you need to call me up. But from what I hear, it wasn't that wasn't the case. And there were guys beating him out like Alex Tuck. was one of those guys that were in the AHL that bided their time, and then they came up, and now Tuck's doing pretty well with the Golden Knights. And, if you're not producing, it doesn't matter they gave him a 2-year, $10 million deal. If he's not showing he can play on North American ice, and I believe he's 30 at this point, Shipachyov.
Yeah, he's 30 years old.
Yeah, there kind of comes a point when you're a European player where you're so used to that. Coming over here is much, much different. We play on a smaller rink. There's not much room to freewheel. You need to be tighter. You need to play within your system a lot more. So if Shipachyov wasn't getting it, I understand why McPhee did it. There could have been a little better way to handle things maybe, but there's a reason he wasn't on the roster. And guys like Eric Halla and William Karlsson and Cody Eakin were beating him out in the center ice position.
Well, Cody Eakin automatically was going to be like one of their top centers anyways, because he proved in Dallas he can be that guy. William Karlsson was really developing well with, I believe, Columbus. So, like, you kind of saw who your top centers were going to be anyways. But Shipachyov, I think also his attitude towards going to the AHL hurt him as well. It's like, anyone who, Ron Hextall said this about, a lot of their young kids in Philadelphia, and why Los Angeles was so successful for a while is that it doesn't hurt to keep them down there a little longer than normal, because that's how because it helps. Yeah, it helps their development.
Detroit keeps their prospects in the AHL longer than any other organization in the league, and you see when their kids come up, they're ready to produce. So there's no shame in going to the AHL. And like Alex Tuck and Shea Theodore, when they were told they were going there, they didn't complain. They did their jobs. They dominated. Now they're up playing well with the Golden Knights. So it's just about kind of having the right mindset. It didn't seem Shipachyov had the right mindset to be in the NHL.
Now, Vegas is also on their 5th goaltender.
Yeah.
Because Maxime Legacy, whatever you say his last name, got injured. Another one. Now they're on this kid, 19-year-old from Kamloops Blazers in the Canadian Hockey League, Dylan Ferguson. 19-year-old kid being thrown to the fire. What are your thoughts on Vegas's goalie situation, but also at the same time, the fact that they still have a lot of defensemen?
Yeah, I think they have 8 or something like that now.
They have like 9.
8 or 9, yeah.
No, they have 9.
Wow. So, okay, well, Vegas, look, it's good that they have the depth, because Fleury was doing well. Fleury goes down. Subban does well. He goes down. You have Dansk. Dansk goes down.
After playing very well.
Yeah, after playing. All 3 of them played extremely well in there.
I actually read a statistic between Marc-Andre Fleury, Malcolm Subban, and Oscar Dansk. They were 8-1-0 with a .934 save percentage. Under Maxime Legacy, like 2-5-2 with a .808 goals against average.
Yeah,
save percentage.
I was working the game the other night when Vegas was playing the Edmonton Oilers at Rogers Place, and Legacy was getting shellacked by Connor McDavid and all of them, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and it's clear when he's your 4th string goaltender.
He shouldn't even be a 4th string goaltender.
Exactly, and they threw Dylan Ferguson into the fire, who, by the way, they got in the Mark Mathot trade with the Dallas Stars. So who knows where they'd be right now without doing that trade with Mark Mathot. And he's 19. He's still wearing his Kamloops Blazers gear on the ice. When he played Edmonton, he didn't have any Vegas gear. He was just wearing the gear he wore in
because he's on an emergency call-up.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't expecting to be with Vegas for at least a couple seasons.
Yeah, and it's good they have the depth, but once you're down to number 5, it's hard. You understand. And for their defensemen, I'm pretty sure McPhee thought he could flip a few more by now, which is why you saw Jason Garrison put on waivers about a week or 2 ago back.
And no one took him.
Yeah, no one took him. So McPhee's thought process was probably, I'm going to get all of them. I'll flip them for stuff because every team needs.
Also, and it's an interesting thing as we just keep cleaning off this table of stuff. McPhee had the gun to everyone's head, to every GM's head going into the expansion draft. Now it's turned. Now all the GMs have the gun to his head, and it could be a very interesting trade deadline. For George McPhee. It's like he wants to drop off these defensemen. He wants to maybe trade James Neal.
I think James Neal is
but the thing is, though, is that, because of how he handled things going into the draft, he may not be able to move these guys. He may be keeping a James Neal after the trade deadline because nobody wants to trade with him because of how he handled the expansion draft. So it's a very interesting situation. It's like there's the rumors that Fleury is still considered day to day, so he could hopefully be back sooner rather than later for Vegas, which is always a good sign for them. There's no news yet on Malcolm Subban. There's no news yet on
Malcolm Subban actually just came off the IR.
Oh, we did.
I saw before on Vegas' Facebook page. Yeah.
Oh, so that is an official thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a promising thing for them.
Yeah.
Getting Malcolm Subban
because that's their number 2, and that's definitely better than number 5 at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have your number 5 back up your number 2.
Yeah, which is crazy, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, if James Neal goes to the deadline, I don't know at this point, but he's playing really well early in the season.
They just put the C on that guy,
right? And I don't know I don't know what the league rules are, but what's the Nashville Predators to try to get him back at the deadline? I don't know if you can trade back with a team like that, or the expansion draft rules kind of change things. But
I think they can trade back for him, but they have to wait till January 1st.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the only thing for that. But at the same time, I don't think Nashville has room for him.
No, I think now with the Kyle Turris trade.
Yeah, with the Kyle Turris trade, the acquisitions of Scott Hartnell and Nick Bonino during the offseason. Actually, you brought up Kyle Turris in that trade. What are your thoughts on that? Who won that?
I mean,
overall,
we talked about this a lot on Tilted Ice, but we were discussing how we don't believe Matt Duchene is that much of an upgrade over Kyle Turris. And Kyle Turris had some massive goals for the Ottawa Senators in the playoffs. He, even in overtime against Henrik Lundqvist. The guy's a gamer. He knows how to play. He's really solid center. He went number 2 or 3 overall to the Coyotes when he was originally drafted. And is Matt Duchene that much of an upgrade over Kyle Turris? Because it can be debated. Their numbers aren't too far off. I mean, Kyle Turris has never had a 30-goal season, but he's had a 27, I'm pretty sure. And, for all that the Ottawa Senators paid the Colorado Avalanche, you'd think they were getting someone like
Nashville and Colorado. No, exactly. Nashville and Ottawa combined
paying
Colorado
to make this so Nashville will get Turris and Ottawa gets Duchene, but that's a haul that you'd expect for a player like. That's like if someone decided to trade Evgeny Malkin, like to me, like they got something like 2 or 3 first-round picks, a second, like 3 or 4 prospects.
They got Andrew Hammond,
to
become the new backup
the Hamburglar, Semyon Varlamov.
Yeah,
you get Samuel Girard, who's 19 years old and already looks like he can be a gamer in this league because he was on Nashville's blue line earlier this season. You get what's his name, Vladislav Kamenev, who looks like he could push for a top 6 spot because he's been tearing up the American Hockey League. You get all of these pieces. Oh, Shane Bowers, Ottawa's first-round pick from 2017. And all of these players for someone who didn't want to be in Colorado, and then, obviously Ottawa gets rid of Turris, but will Duchene really help them that much? I mean, for Turris going to Nashville, I think what Nashville gave Colorado is okay. They're in win-now mode. They obviously are. Turris fits great behind Johansson, so you have Johansson, Turris, and Bonino as your 1, 2, 3 in Nashville. But Ottawa, I think they feel like they're closer than they actually are. And this could come back to really hurt them losing all these picks and especially their top prospect. Because I don't see Matt Duchene as being... Because the way this is being treated is like Matt Duchene's like a 50 goal scorer, breaking games open, but I don't see it.
But he's never been that type of player.
Yeah, he's never been that type of player.
It's an interesting trade. And at the same time, you have to look at it from a long-term perspective, too, for Colorado. Some of those picks may not pan out.
No, they won't, but it doesn't hurt when you're rebuilding. You just have a lot
of picks to have. But so, yeah. Anything you want to talk about? I know. I normally just throw out every single topic.
Actually,
because it is my show after all.
The Arizona Coyotes
still suck.
Yeah, which is ridiculous to me because when you bring in Nicholas Hjalmarsson, you bring in Derek Stepan.
I can explain this already.
Go ahead.
Analytics.
Yeah.
Analytics. That's all. Like the kid that's running the Coyotes, the general manager.
John Shaker, the GM. Right?
Yeah, he's like a few years younger than me and a few years older than you.
He's 20. I think he's 26 or 27.
Yeah, 26, 27 years old. I'm 31. And you had the same thing happened with Arizona had a really good season, and then that kid became the general manager, and last season they were crap. The season before, the Florida Panthers were a really good team under Dave Talent, and then Tim Rowe took over, and they went to crap
Mhm.
because they all both brought in analytical guys. Analytics does not work in hockey, period. And they're still trying to run off of an analytical style in Arizona, and it's showing.
Now,
Because-
the counter argument to you is that the Kings were like the top possession team in both years they won the cup, and the analytics guys will bring that up. And my feeling with analytics is
Yeah, but you can't analyze. You can't do analytics for bounces and stuff.
No,
like
you
that.
can't.
Because like Game 7 between the Caps and the Penguins, they were
bounces, yeah.
Game 6 between Nashville and Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final, it was bounces that won the game.
And Nashville's goal that got disallowed, which was a terrible.
Oh yeah,
terrible
it was
call.
a terrible call. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. You can't. Analytics can't cover that,
No,
and
you're
it'll
right.
never be able to cover that. And that's why hockey's so unpredictable. And that's why analytics really doesn't work in hockey.
Yeah, and they focus a lot on shot attempts with analytics. I noticed too, and they don't focus on if the attempt was essentially good or bad. It's the attempt. And my whole thing with analytics is there's a time and a place for it. There's a place for it in the game, I feel like, but you can't just solely rely on analytics. There's still the eye test. You have to see how these players are actually playing.
You gotta see how the buck pounces.
Yeah.
And
According to analytics, a team like the Carolina Hurricanes should have won the Stanley Cup already, but they don't because they don't have the players for it.
Yeah,
but
they now have some players
Yeah.
to at least get in the playoffs
yeah.
and be competitive in the playoffs, but maybe not win the cup.
Yeah. So there's a time and place. You can't just solely rely on it because it's just shocking to me with the Coyotes because if you look at that roster, it's not like garbage.
No,
by
it's
any
not a garbage
means.
roster,
Yeah.
but when you run it through analytics, it's garbage. And I feel so bad for Rick Tocchet.
Yeah.
Because Rick Tocchet is
good coach.
Rick Tocchet is the ultimate eye test guy. He is somebody who, can see what's going on the ice and go, I don't like what I'm seeing with that player. Hey, come here. I want you to work on this, this, and this because I don't like how, this is why. That's the type of coach Rick Tocchet is. But when you have a general manager who's just like, no, he's playing fine because of his Corsi is good.
Yeah.
Well, his Corsi isn't helping him out right now.
Yeah. It's a shame because the only person that seems to be doing work on that team is Clayton Keller. And the kid is like
Christian Dvorak.
Yeah.
Christian Dvorak has been doing really well too.
It's like the kids seem to be doing well, but it's not translating to wins.
Yeah.
And it's just shocking me because they had a huge roster overhaul this summer. And I expected them not.
Especially when you get the guys like Chris Pronger and Pavel Datsyuk off your books,
Yeah, but like a guy like you'd think a pairing of like Ekman Larson and Chalmers would be a pretty good pairing to solidify your defense. You bring in Derek Stepan, who maybe he's not a true number one center, but he's very solid 200-foot game in like either end. And Clayton Keller, Dvorak, Fisher, Strome. I don't even think Strome's up with the team now. I think he's in the AHL. But you have all these good pieces, and like
that was like a massive arm hair that I just. You have a lot of arm hair.
I know. There's something like 2-16-3 or something like that. Like
I think they only have one win still.
I think 2. I think they might have won yesterday. I don't know.
No.
But if anything, it's either 2 or 3 wins, and God, I feel bad because
over. The first thing he did is like he brought in those 2 analytical guys, and they're like, well, you need to get rid of Gabranson, and you need to get rid of Kulikov, and you need to get rid of Campbell because we don't like their analytics. Their analytics are not good enough. And it's like, well, you just got rid of half of your defense.
Yeah.
And that just murdered them. And then, of course, injuries happen, and that doesn't help the case either.
Their defense is looking pretty good, though.
But then also, like, Tim Rowe did Gerard Gallant really dirty.
Oh, I still don't like what happened with Gerard Gallant.
No.
Now Gerard Gallant is doing really well in Vegas. I'm really happy for the guy. But they essentially left him on the tarmac.
Yeah.
And told him, like,
No, they didn't leave him on the tarmac.
Okay.
They left him at the arena and said, get your own taxi.
And that's terrible.
Yeah, that's Tim Rowe.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why Tim Rowe will probably never have another job in the NHL ever again. Because people will remember, hey, this is how he treated Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, and Gerard Gallant is a guy who's really respected around the league now, too. And there's a reason he was, like, the first call for the Golden Knights because he's a really good coach. He should have had... There was no reason to fire Gerard Gallant. Like, if your best player, Jonathan Huberdeau, is out and half your defense core is wrecked with injuries, how do you think?
Or you got rid of him.
Or you got rid of him. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think your team is going to perform? Like, you can't say, Gerard Gallant, you did a bad job. You have to say, let's get our complete team together and now give you the full opportunity to coach this team. So, I mean, I'm
not only that, but Gerard Gallant now gets to play with a team from scratch.
Yeah, and he's doing a really good job of making that team come together. Like a bunch of basically cast-offs who all their teams are like, we don't want you.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that about all the players.
Not all of them, but
I mean,
you know,
I could tell you right now, Dallas probably really wanted to keep Cody Eakin, and the Capitals obviously really wanted to keep Nate Schmidt,
who's doing really well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's a lot of guys like Iowa didn't want to give up Mark Bethot.
Yeah, but if you look at it, like cast off in a sense that these are the guys that had to be thrown. They're basically thrown together, and Gerard Gallant had to, you know, bring them together and make them this cohesive unit. And he's done a really good job so far. No one expected the Golden Knights to be as good as they are right now. Especially
right now with them going through a slide right now because
with
of all the goalie
injuries,
injuries. Yeah. So, but Russ, it's been fun. Real quick, plug all the new links.
All the new links.
All the new.
Okay.
The new
links. So, if you follow us already, don't worry about anything. We just changed the handles and it all goes right to the new things. So, there is our Tilted Ice has its own Twitter. I will pull everything up because I actually forget all the new handles. So I have to pull this up.
Hey, we get to see what time it is too.
7:30.
Oh, wow. We've been recording for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
it's nice though.
About 30 minutes, right? Right, camera person?
36.
Okay, yeah, we're about right.
Okay, so
we've done a good full episode.
To follow our podcasts, you go to @TheTiltedIce. All information about Tilted Ice around the league, Tilted Ice north of Penn and Tilted Ice center ice will be on there. To follow our news and our website, you follow Forever Blue Shirts. That's @4 Forever Blue Shirts. That's 4EVER Blue Shirts. And we have one more, and that is the Forever Blue Shirts Game Day Twitter, which is where we just post about games, we post scores and things like that. And that is, I think it's just Forever Blue Shirts Game Day, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if you find our Tilted Ice handle is @TheTiltedIce. So if you find us on those two, you can find the Game Day one. Our rebranding is going really well so far. We'd appreciate any feedback from any form. Let us know.
Don't you dare steal any of my catchphrases.
And with that, we will see you on the ice.
All right. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, as always, as I smack my guest, ladies and gentlemen, and as always, to all of you who are contribute to the Patreon, I thank you. It's what helps keep this show going, and it allows me to continue to produce content like me slapping Russell for stealing my catchphrases. You know, you love the episode, tell your friends, have your friends join the Patreon community, help to grow the show. Big things are on the horizon that I cannot talk about yet. I can probably talk about it on December 1st. Officially, I know you and I have talked about it a couple of times, but that's because you're privy to that type of information because you need to know what's going on with the show behind the scenes. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, thank you again for joining this TXHT Patreon exclusive, and we will see you next time on the ice. May hit stop. And I'll edit.
Looking for some pre-Thanksgiving fun? Then look no further than to DerpyCon. DerpyCon, which is taking place at the Hyatt Regency Morristown in Morristown, New Jersey from November 17th to 19th. Come see special guests like David Yost, Walter Jones, Todd Habercorn, and so many more. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit derpycon.com today. Attention hockey fans, the Experience Hockey Talk is on Patreon. Come join the exclusive TXHT community today for access to exclusive episodes, interviews, and so much more. You can join the TXHT Patreon community at patreon.com/TXHT_hockey.